fantasy football wide receiver pickups. Week 17 before the rosters freeze, hold these guys or pick them up. Look, I don't even know what to do. Honestly, I don't like anybody. I think my favorite, because Juju Smith-Schuster is a free agent, I do think Pittsburgh, given what we saw from Deontay Johnson, they have to sign Juju Smith-Schuster again. Deontay Johnson is just not – he's not consistent enough. He's not concentrating enough. You have to worry about that. But if he moves on, James Washington immediately vaults into some opportunity, and Pittsburgh will have 3 wide receivers that are relevant. So I think James Washington is the guy that you can pick up right now and would have value in a keeper league going into the draft next year if Smith-Schuster moves on. So he'd be my favorite, but I don't love the wide receivers here. I have a couple more names, but what about you?
I've got a few different wideouts, and I like the James Washington. I don't think Pittsburgh does have to re-sign Juju, and I'm not anywhere near as concerned about Deontay as you. He's got the dropsies right now, sure, but I mean, he's shown a lot of talent. It's just a lot of talent. So I think they're going to be content letting Juju go going forward with Claypool, Deontay, whether they let Washington go too and draft another wide receiver.
Right.
I think they have confidence in their ability to draft receivers too. So I'm not sure they're going to pay Juju unless Juju's willing to take a team-friendly deal, which I'm not sure he's going to be willing to do. But I also think Denzel Mims, this is for obviously
very good one.
Shallower leagues, because obviously in deeper dynasty leagues, this guy was like a second-round pick. He's not a free agent in those leagues. But in like some shallower, more kind of redraft-themed keeper leagues, he's probably out there in some leagues. And whether they bring in Justin Fields, whether they keep Sam Darnold and add a left tackle, all we're really hoping for is Adam Gase to go. And it kind of opens up this offense's potential, hopefully, to take that next step.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I love Leviska Chanel going forward, depending on what happens with the Jacksonville situation. He's going to have a new quarterback, and he's going to probably have a new offense. I could see if Jacksonville – here's a theory. If Jacksonville went defensive, and I don't think they would. I mean, why would you draft a rookie quarterback and go with a defensive head coach? That's just an awful idea. But if they did do that, I could see a scenario where Jay Gruden stays. But honestly, I think he's gone. I think they'll have a new offensive system in Jacksonville. And Chenault has running and passing capability. I mean, he's got a skill set there that could help. But I do, man. Mims is a really good pickup. He wasn't on my list or on my radar. I think that's a really strong one. Who else you got?
Yeah, I've got a few more guys here. Paris Campbell.
Yeah,
kind of in the Marlon match.
I have him stashed. Yeah,
he was dropped in a lot of places that are more kind of redraft keeper leagues, just because he's out for the year. I still like his potential. I think he's flashed when he's been on the field. Unfortunately, he can't really seem to stay on it. But you bet on talented players. What happens if you bet on Will Fuller this past year? Like, you bet on talented guys who are hurt. If they stay healthy, there's a lot of upside there. Another one, Jalen Guyton, I think is not rostered in anywhere near the amount of leagues he should be rostered in. The fact simply that he's tethered to Justin Herbert right now, and for at least what is rookie contract, 4 years?
Yeah, right.
So Mike Williams, free agent, he's probably gone. Hunter Henry, also a free agent. We'll see if they re-sign him. There's opportunity, and even if they bring in another receiver, Guyton has been running as that third receiver in 3 wide receiver sets like all year long for
and
this
they take
team.
deep shots to him.
He's got Justin Herbert as quarterback.
Yeah.
That's great news. Like, get this guy, stash him if he's still out there.
Not that I'm giving up on Eckler by any means, but I can tell you, like, in crunch time, Justin Herbert, he'll have Austin Eckler like 5-10 yards down the field wide open with nobody around him, and Herbert's looking 35 yards downfield. I'm like, no! But then he hits the pass, so you're like, well. I mean, he made the right move. So it's like Herbert, man, downfield throw. I love Herbert. I wish I had him on my roster, but I have good quarterbacks. Who gives a crap? I'll give you one free agent. I'm just looking at speculative free agents here. Look, I don't like this player. Every year when I write the book, everybody's always asked me, where do you have this guy? What do you think about this guy? And I'm like, I don't have him, but if I was going to do it, I'm not going to draft this guy till later. I don't like him. But because of that, because I always get asked about this guy, I'm thinking keeper leagues, I'm thinking dynasty leagues. Antonio Brown is not somebody I want on my team, but if you pick him up, you can trade him to somebody this offseason for a draft pick. Free move. Stick him on your bench. You don't have to like him. I hate him. But if you pick him up, and he's going to be a free agent, and he's in the NFL, and he's showing himself to be somewhat sane at this point. If he can just, and again, he's free. If you pick him up You stash him on your bench. If he can just be sane until the free agency system and he goes period, and he goes to an interesting situation, trade him immediately, and you'll be able to get a draft pick. So I like him. It's a free draft pick if he can just keep his Twitter quiet for like 4 months, and as soon as he signs somewhere, trade him. That's my thought. Was he like 33 years old? Too old for me to really roster in that kind of setting too. But somebody will trade for him. They will, man. People love themselves. People are still, trying to get Josh Gordon on their rosters in the keeper leagues. Like, okay, let's see where he winds up. Trade him. Free draft pick, guys. Trade him.
Man, I'm still rooting for Josh Gordon too. I would love to see it come
Me
back.
too, man.
I've
Such a shame.
given up on it, but I would love to see that.
Yep.
I got a couple more guys like Keelan Cole was one. This is deeper. Like, you're obviously not keeping him where you're only keeping like 8 guys. But if he gets released in like a deeper dynasty league by someone trying to clear roster space, whatever, or if he's still dangling out there, like, they're going to bring in probably another rookie wide receiver with Lawrence. Like, they're going to draft or assign a wideout to pair with Chark and Chanel, possibly on the outside. So Cole's probably not going into next year as the number 3. It's possible that they don't add anyone significant, but we've seen it happen before where they draft a rookie in the 2nd round or whatever, 3rd round, whatever it may be, and they just can't beat out the veteran guy for some reason. Like, they just can't do it. And Keelan Cole has flashed a little bit of talent at times. So I think just being tethered to Trevor Lawrence, which it's looking pretty clear that that's almost set in stone, he's going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. I mean, you could do worse than buying or rostering the third, 4th wide receiver for what's been deemed the greatest quarterback prospect of all time.
Right. Then we got, I have one more name on my list. And again, this is speculative. So he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So depending on where he lands, it could be good. But Travis Fulgham, he flashed this season. If you've been paying attention to depth charts, David and I have to, for our articles and all that stuff. But you've seen Fulgham fall behind Rager, then fall behind Ward, then fall behind Jeffrey in the depth chart. Deshaun Jackson gets activated again. Look, Philadelphia, their cap is a nightmare, $96 million over the cap at this point. They have to make some moves. I don't believe they can really re-sign Travis Fulgham, even if they want to, and I'm not even convinced they want to. Fulgham's going to end up somewhere else, and if he goes to a place and has a role, hey, and Alan Lazard's a free agent this year. I think he's restricted. I can't remember the restricted or unrestricted, but yeah, I mean, Fulgham go back to Green Bay. That makes sense. So if he finds himself in a good situation, like we've seen him produce, so he's worth a flyer. He needs to get in a better situation for him to get some playing time. But when he gets playing time, he produces.
Yep. I got 3 more guys.
Go for it.
Auden Tate, who has
like him.
shown in the past last year with terrible quarterback play. He fell off a little bit, but when he had Andy Dalton early in the year, he was producing like wide receiver 3 numbers for you. He's still young. He has been highly graded by Pro Football Focus, which some people don't care about at all. Some people do take a little bit. I mean, you can't use that as the only metric, but he has been highly graded. AJ Green, dust.
Yeah.
John Ross, gone. So we're talking about a team that was leading the league in passing attempts when they had Joe Burrow at quarterback. Whether Burrow misses all of next year, I believe he was injured early enough that he'll probably be back.
I think he'll be back
the second half of the year. He'll probably miss the first 6 games on the PUP. But I think Joe Burrow will be back next year at some point. And Auden Tate, man, they're just throwing the ball so much at this point. I mean, even AJ Green had a couple good games this year, and like,
yeah,
he was done. But I think Auden Tate is a clear upgrade over AJ Green at this point. So I don't mind him as a dynasty stash as well. And then I had 2 more, was just Isabella and Keyshawn Johnson for Arizona. If Larry Fitz retires, they don't bring in any more wideouts. They like to run those 3 wide receiver sets. So we could see Isabella or Keyshawn kind of spike in value over the offseason.
Yeah, you're right. I think Fitzgerald, I think the Cardinals will bring him back if he wants to come back. It's one of those situations, and he's still good enough, I think, to keep those guys at bay, but I like those guys as well. And about Burrow, I mean, when RG3 tore his ACL in the playoffs, he actually came back for week 1. I don't know that Cincinnati wants to play that game and rush him back like Washington did, but he could be back the first quarter. I mean, he could be back. I don't know that that's the right thing to do, but he could. Let's